So in my live streams, which I happen to live stream on Twitch at the end of all the NBA games on twitch.tv/Theflightmike, but in those live streams, a lot of you have made a simple request of me, and you guys have asked for me to, well, first of all, you guys asked me to make a podcast, and I'm still in progress of doing that, but you also asked for me to make an NBA reaction channel, and yesterday I did that. If you were subscribed to my backup channel, Theflightmike TV, it is now an NBA reaction channel. A link to it's in the description down below, and the reason why I'm mentioning that is because the very first video that I watched on that channel was the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Brooklyn Nets, and before I even watched the video, I thought it was hysterical. I was thinking, oh my god, Giannis is gone. I was tweeting about it like a maniac because on paper, if you didn't watch the game, you would think to yourself, oh my god, the Bucks lost to the Nets, Giannis is gone. But bro, after I watched the game, I now think the opposite, because the Milwaukee Bucks are thinking so far ahead into the future, and they're doing something that I really wish the Los Angeles Lakers would do. And that's the fact that if you paid attention, and I'll show some clips here as well, if you paid attention to the Milwaukee Bucks versus Brooklyn Nets game yesterday, you would notice that in the second half of that game, the Milwaukee Bucks took an amazing opportunity. You see, I don't know if you guys realize this, but the Brooklyn Nets don't have Kyrie Irving, don't have Kevin Durant, don't have DeAndre Jordan, don't have Wilson Chandler. I could go on and on. I don't even think their best bench players are available. Like, they try to bring in Michael Beasley and he wasn't even available. And I don't even think Karis LeVert is available. Let me know if I'm correct or not about that. But my point being is the Milwaukee Bucks were literally a game away from clinching first place in the East. And as opposed to saying, hey, you know what we should do? We should just win this game so we could clinch first in the East. They put in their bench mob and they said, you know what, bench mob? If you want us to get first place in the East, you better beat this team that's filled with spare parts, which is the Brooklyn Nets. And of course they failed, but the fact that they put in their bench for the second half of the game to give them that experience, to give them the opportunity to compete and give them a drill, for the most part, that was just a gigantic situational practice drill, made me think about the Los Angeles Lakers. Guys, before I dive into this deep, complex analysis of my favorite NBA team, please take a moment to leave a like, because for some reason, NBA YouTube has been weird. For some reason, YouTube just isn't showing love to NBA YouTubers. So leave a like, subscribe, and turn on my notifications to help the channel grow. On top of that, I am giving away multiple copies of NBA 2K21 on both Twitter and Instagram. And finally, make sure you check out my reaction channel. It's in the description down below, and my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Theflightmike. Now that we got that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? First of all, I want to make one thing abundantly clear. Okay, I don't want to be seen as a pessimist. I don't want to be seen as a sadist. Everything I'm telling you is from the mouth of a Laker fan that I guess has been through some traumatic situations, but at the same time, a very realistic Laker fan. Yes, I thought that Anthony Davis step back three-point jumper in Rudy Gobert's face was freaking amazing. Yes, I absolutely love how the future's looking for the Lakers, and yes, I think there's a pretty good chance that they win the NBA Finals, although I'm not automatically giving it to them yet. Because guys, coming into the bubble, I've had a couple of issues on my mind. One of them was a very simple issue that a lot of teams have been dealing with, and we saw it from Jason Tatum in his first game, and that's a very simple issue of how well the player would be conditioned and whether they were rusty or not. And guess what? There's some pretty important players on the Los Angeles Lakers that are demonstrating how rusty they are. As a matter of fact, the sole reason why I think LeBron James is playing tonight is because so far, if you paid attention, LeBron James hasn't looked like LeBron James. And if we look at all of LBJ's games so far, first of all, even if LeBron James isn't 100%, he's still a remarkable talent to have on the floor. But in his first game against the Los Angeles Clippers, check out this stat line: 6 of 19 shooting, 2 of 7 from 3, 11 rebounds and 7 assists, which, by the way, that's fantastic. 16 points and a -4. Luckily for the Lakers, the Clippers have had some issues of their own right, and the Los Angeles Lakers were able to win. Now, in the next game against the Toronto Raptors, LeBron James had an opportunity to give himself a little bit of a preview of what an actual NBA playoff game would be like, because the Toronto Raptors have a lot to play for, and in my opinion, so far, considering how things have been going, I think they're probably my favorite team to come out of the East, even over the Milwaukee Bucks, just based off of their experience and based off of how they've been playing. They've been playing like a well-oiled machine, and they seem to have had all the answers against the Lakers when they played them on August 1st. And in that game, LeBron James had an even worse game. It seemed like he was absolutely neutralized, because in the game against the Clippers, LeBron had 5 turnovers. But in the game against the Raptors, he had 4 turnovers. He was 7 of 15 shooting. His field goal percentage improved from a 32% to a 47%, but he only put up 20 points, he put up 10 rebounds, he put up 5 assists, and he was a -20 on the game, which kind of reinforces the fact that, okay, this is very unlike LeBron James. You know, typically we expect significantly better numbers from LBJ. And then in the game against the Utah Jazz, you know, Anthony Davis went off, and he said over and over again that Anthony Davis is going to be the focal point of the offense. But in this game, LeBron put up 9 for 16, 56% from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. He was able to put up 22 points. He was a ±0, put up 4 turnovers, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals. So the reason why LeBron James played against the OKC Thunder wasn't because he wanted to see Chris Paul, his good old buddy, on the court. It's because he clearly understands there's some cobwebs to his game. Otherwise, don't you think after clinching the #1 seed in the West, the Lakers would opt to rest their best players on their entire team? Anthony Davis and LeBron James are both players that typically require unload management, but since there was a 3.5-month pause on the NBA season, which is the equivalent to the end of the NBA Finals in June typically, till the middle of October when the NBA season restarts, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the Lakers need as much practice and as many games to get in as humanly possible to knock off those cobwebs. And I'm sure it's apparent to everyone. Now look, out of all of the problems the Lakers have, I think this problem is probably the most easily fixable. I feel like for some reason LeBron James will always turn it up when it comes time for the NBA playoffs, and I feel like the rest that he got during the hiatus was absolutely instrumental for him to be successful in the NBA restart. But there's a much bigger issue at bay, and it's the reason why I brought up the Milwaukee Bucks in the beginning of this video, because on top of that, the Los Angeles Lakers went into the bubble with a huge problem. And that's the fact that compared to the Clippers, I've said this over and over again, yes, they have more experience. They have more players that have won more NBA championships, and I've been to the NBA Finals more times than the Los Angeles Clippers. For example, Danny Green, LeBron James, JaVale McGee, Rajon Rondo, and this is all off the top of my head, Dwight Howard, they've all been to the NBA Finals before. Once again, I'm probably forgetting a good amount of the roster. I'm just reciting this off the top of my head. But an even bigger issue is if LeBron James was rusty, dude, his bench looks absolutely abysmal in terms of how rusty they are. And the biggest issue so far for the Los Angeles Lakers is they lost one of their key role players in Avery Bradley, and as a result, they're kind of lacking on perimeter defense. And originally, we all looked at Danny Green hoping that he would step up, but Danny Green's nowhere to be found. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hasn't been doing so well himself either on the defensive end, but on paper, it didn't really matter because the Utah Jazz shot 28% from beyond the arc, and if you paid attention to the game, that had more to do with the fact that the Utah Jazz were a little rusty than the Lakers playing fantastic defense. If you look at the first quarter of that game, the Utah Jazz got a lot of great looks. It's just they were not able to convert because, again, it's been a while since they played basketball, man. I understand. I get it. Now, things aren't all bad for the Lakers. Anthony Davis seems to be in tip-top prime AD form, as he should be, because he's about to enter his prime. Bear in mind, technically, Anthony Davis has not entered his prime yet in basketball theology. AD is currently 27 years old, so the fact that we're seeing this from him so far, and just as he's entering his prime, is going to be absolutely terrifying. But how do we solve the Lakers' problem in terms of perimeter defense, especially when you have a coach like Frank Vogel who places such a large emphasis on defense? What are you supposed to do? Well, there's a couple of answers for that. You see, a lot of Laker fans are looking at Alex Caruso to pick up the slack, which is completely doable. Alex Caruso has always been a personal fan favorite of mine, and I always believed in his potential. But in addition to Alex Caruso picking up his slack a little bit and just hopefully playing a little bit more inspired, because this is probably one of the greatest opportunities he will ever get in his entire career, on top of that, we might need to see LeBron James make a bigger effort on the defensive end, which might result in him putting up a lot of the similar statistics that he has put up during the beginning of the NBA restart. Needless to say, this is something the Lakers are going to have to address, especially if the Clippers finally, and this is a pretty big if the Clippers finally tap into their potential. I think the Lakers are screwed. I've said this over and over again. The reason why before I wasn't so scared is because Montrezl Harrell is, out with some personal issues. I believe he lost his grandmother, who he was really close with, so rest in peace to her. Lemon Pepper Lou Williams has finally come back to the Los Angeles Clippers, so there's only a matter of time before he gets his groove once again. And then Patrick Beverley is already back with the Los Angeles Clippers. So once this team, the Clippers, become a cohesive unit and truly tap into their potential as a very, very deep team, again, the Clippers bench is phenomenal, then the Lakers are going to have to come up with an answer for that. They're going to need their role players to step up on the defensive end. They're going to need Danny Green to hit his open threes. They're going to need Danny Green to play good defense. Same with KCP and same with Caruso. So that in of itself is the X factor for whether the Lakers could even make it to the NBA Finals past the Los Angeles Clippers. So let me know in the comment section down below, who do you think will make it to the NBA Finals out of the West? For all you know, neither of these teams would make it to the NBA Finals. Maybe Michael Porter Jr. and Bol Bol and Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray carry the Denver Nuggets to the NBA Finals. Maybe by some crazy voodoo magic, James Harden and Russell Westbrook turn it up in the Western Conference playoffs and make it there. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, make sure to check out my reaction channel in the description down below. I'm your boy, Theflightmike, and I'm dropping the mic until our next upload.